This week on Cocktails with Bright Antenna, we have the incredibly talented author Benjamin Percy. Here's a couple quick tastes of it all, and then we're going to jump right in.
You have this outline, you have this blueprint, but it better be written in pencil.
Right.
The characters surprise you.
I feel like I would write faster if I had a plot.
You want to get shit done, wake up early. I read 6 times because I wanted to be emotionally disengaged.
So I've read that you have 3 major phobias: clowns, sharks, and dentists.
Well, let me tell you a creepy story about a clown.
Welcome to this episode of Cocktails with Bright Antenna. We're switching things up a little bit this week. We have the author, Ben Percy, here with us. We are
on location in Jackson,
Clink.
Wyoming.
Clink.
Cheers. Drinking
Cheers.
whiskey.
drinking variations of the classic Manhattan cocktail.
Oh, this tastes great.
Ben has the bourbon-based, straightforward. We're going to pass it around so everyone can taste.
Yeah.
But he has, your classic Manhattan bourbon vermouth bitters, a dash of, what did you ask for a dash of?
Grand Marais. Yeah.
Grand Marais. Yes,
So
that.
this is my poison of choice.
Excellent.
But we are at what, 7,000 feet right now?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I live in
pretty much.
Minnesota, so
Oh.
by the time we pass all 3 of these around,
Yeah, we're going to
I
be
might be a
pretty
little
much
loopy.
toast.
I hope so. We've never gotten anyone really drunk on this, even though we tried.
We try. Well, the tequila one.
Maybe, because that was 10 o'clock in the morning. But
we're going to make an effort.
Yes. Mine, on the other hand, has half bourbon, half whiskey, rye whiskey, and then typical vermouth bitters, but then the glass is rinsed with Frangelico. Would you like to try?
I would love to, yeah.
Yes.
I love rye whiskey as a mixer.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends are crazy about it on its own. Maybe I just haven't tried the right one, but it always tastes to me a little bit like licking a hardwood floor that's been freshly lacquered.
I'm going to slide right in here and answer a question many of you probably have right about now. Yes, that is Ben's real voice.
Have you tried the
That
High
sounds
West
good.
Double Rye?
No,
I think you might like that one.
that's out of Colorado?
I don't know where
I
they
think
make High
so.
West. It might be Utah, actually.
do you want to taste mine? Mine's cherry.
What do you feel like the?
Well, the rye, right, it kind of has a dryness to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, whereas this has the standard bourbon fire and brown sugar, this almost has an acidic quality that follows up with.
Wow, you're a real connoisseur.
Yeah. Oh, let me try yours. So this one is
Mine has a splash of grenadine in it. Because,
instead of cherry juice, right?
Well,
Or
instead
cherry,
of the normal thing.
yeah.
So that one's going to be a little fruit punchy.
A little fruit punchy. Exactly. Yeah.
Grenadine's what you put in like a Shirley Temple.
Yeah.
Because I am
I'm not knocking it.
I'm 5. Deep down, I'm 5. This one.
good.
This one's not bad. It is.
Not your go-to.
I'm going to get like 5 canker sores from all the sugar in it.
Yeah.
It's good.
This one's not bad.
Not bad?
Yeah.
What do you think of it? Can you taste the Frangelico?
Not really, but I think it's because this one kind of threw me off.
We needed like bread or something to.
But yeah.
Right. Oyster
I'm
crackers.
just
Yeah,
going to
oyster
dedicate that
crackers.
one to my dad because
Oh.
that was his idea.
This is for you, Dad.
Thanks
you.
for watching.
Is that like his signature drink?
Well, he likes whiskey drinks, and somehow he went to some bar that they did this, and so now whenever he has it, he's like, "Can you put Frangelico in it?"
He likes the little nuttiness to
Yeah,
it.
because he's a little nutty.
Yeah, so we are here in Jackson, Wyoming, right near the Jackson Hole Ski Resort for the Jackson Hole Writers Conference, of which Tiffany has been a part of for a long, long time. I've been a part of
15 plus years.
15 plus years. I've
coming
been
here.
a couple years, the last couple years, once I finally got a book out. And then Ben, you first came here right when you were starting to
When I was
write?
just a wee writer.
A wee writer.
Do you remember what year that was? Like 2011?
It must have been 9 to 10 years ago.
Yeah,
And that's where I first met you.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
2009 maybe?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I, at that time, was looking around for places I could have a family vacation and mix business and pleasure.
Yeah.
So I looked at all the coolest locations for writers' conferences. And then I bugged Tim Sandlin at the time. I was like, please can I come? And finally, I
a
broke
good
him down and
idea.
was like, fine.
That's a good idea.
I suppose we'll
like-
have you.
Well, and since that time, you've gone from being a wee writer.
Right.
Although I wouldn't have called you a wee writer there then, but anyway.
Yeah. He's gone on to write multiple books, gotten to do writing comics, has been given an NEA fellowship, the Whitting Writers Prize, 2 Pushcart Prizes, the Plimpton Prize, and also one of his stories was included in 100 Years of the Best American Short Stories. So in the last 10 years, it's been a good
You
run.
had a good decade.
Yeah, you've been busy. Not a bad situation.
It's been, I look back on when I was here, and I was almost exclusively literary fiction then as well. You know, I had the short stories, I had a novel that was on its way out, and now I'm like genre man. You know, I might as well be wearing spandex and a cape at this point because of my involvement with Marvel and DC, and my novels have become much more, I guess you could say, poppy and commercial. So
Is
it
that
just seems like
good?
another life.
Yeah,
Are you
was
cool with that?
Was that intentional?
Or
Well, I grew up on genre fiction, right? Like, I grew up on mass market paperbacks with embossed titles that had, like, if there's a dragon on the cover, if there's a dragon and a flaming sword, or a skeleton, or a robot with laser eyes, or a barbarian with woolly underpants, or whatever. Like, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be swept
cool.
away, and I read purely for, emotional escape, turning pages so swiftly they made a breeze on my face. And I walked into my first creative writing class in college and was told immediately after the professor went over the syllabus, no genre. And I sat there stunned for a moment, looking around the room.
meaning you can't write that?
Yeah, no genre.
Wow.
And I put up my hand and I said, well, what do you mean by this whole no genre thing? Because to me, writing was spy thrillers or ghost stories or
Oh, wow.
dragon stories or whatever. And he said, I mean, no dragons, no vampires,
Oh God.
and especially no barbarians with woolly underpants. And I sat there for a moment and took this in before raising my hand once more and saying, but what else is there? I was like, I didn't know. I'd never read Shirley Jackson or, Alice Munro, Leslie Soko,
Did you enjoy those books when
Flannery
you did?
O'Connor, like any of those literary writers that I now adore and worship. Like I'd never even heard of Raymond Carver,
Oh,
even though
wow.
he came from my home state of Oregon.
Oh, wow.
And I fell in love with literary fiction, but I never fell out of love with genre fiction. But I was told over and over again in every class I went into, no genre fiction. So it wasn't until, I don't know, it took me a long time to get over that because genre was almost like a dirty word, and plot was definitely a dirty word. So I got to that point so many years later where I finally was like, all right, I need to get back in touch with why I wanted to become a writer. Mm-hmm. And the thing that triggered that really was encountering people like Michael Chabon, and Jonathan Lethem and Kate Atkinson and Margaret Atwood, writers who had really propulsive plots but also had artistic integrity.
Right.
Yeah, so that's sort of like where I wanted to be.
I mean, that's such a great description of your writing too, though, because normally I don't like genre fiction. I had never really read much of that, but I feel like your writing is literary genre fiction. I don't even know how to describe it. I guess it's almost like you invented a genre. Literary genre fiction.
Colson Whitehead's done it with Zone. Justin
he's awesome
Cronin's
too.
done it with The Passage.
Do you think it was worthwhile looking back, going through the whole process of no genre and then coming back?
I do think so. Because if you think about, not to nerd out, but
Oh, let's nerd out.
this one.
Yeah, let's just nerd out.
We're
if you
nerds.
think about almost like craft as a series of vectors, I think that, you have like a vector that is narrative progression, right? This happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Then you have a vector that is emotional. Let's think of the narrative vector as horizontal, because it's about a progression. And let's think of the vertical vector as emotional, like an emotional well. And I think that literary writers tend to be extraordinary at that vertical vector, right? Like filling up that emotional well and crafting characters that are so three-dimensional, you're thinking about them years later as though, they're actually a part of your life.
Yeah.
Whereas genre writers err on the side of right? The horizontal, where stuff is happening. But sometimes the characters are types
Right.
instead of three-dimensional. You know, sometimes the prose can be maybe, let's say, pedestrian.
Right.
So it's almost like is one better than the other? It depends on what you're looking for, I guess, in your entertainment. Do you want to be ultimately moved, to some sort of transcendent epiphanic state when exalting the sentences and such, and stunned by the glowing metaphors, or do you want to be like dragged down the rabbit hole?
Yeah.
And have a fun beach read. It just depends on where you're at. But
Right.
I guess I came to the point where I realized like I wanted a little bit of both. Like I love To the Lighthouse, but they never get to the lighthouse.
That's To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. If you're like me, you had to look it up. If you didn't, literary feather in your cap. Back to the program.
I want to write the sequel at the lighthouse.
Really funny.
And I also, though, I'll read some genre stories that I loved as a kid. No,
Yeah.
that's dumb.
That's really
Oh,
funny.
my God.
Well, Scott did some research on you, which he shared with me. And
That's my journalistic background.
Yes.
Dug up all
And
the
I learned that maybe it was your girlfriend, now wife, who encouraged you to be a writer. So, like, when something really good happens in your writing life now, is she like, "You're welcome"?
The great thing about my wife is that she is 100% unimpressed by me. So it's
Keeps it real.
like, guess what? I just won this award. She's like, take out the garbage hot shot. Because she's been with me
good.
from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So she knows who I am. And, all this other stuff doesn't matter.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
great, we're paying the bills. But,
Right.
you can go to that fussy New York thing on your own.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. She comes from a dairy farm family in Wisconsin, and she's, got an incredible work ethic and doesn't have a lot of tolerance for, anything that involves people being too proud of themselves. And we were working at Glacier National Park. That's what
Oh, awesome.
And how did you end up there? Like, just, that sounds like a nice summer job or a place to
It was
work.
that.
or-
I grew up in a outdoorsy family. And I had always dreamed of working at a national park. So part of it was that, but it was also I had kind of an existential crisis, which everybody has, right? At some
For
point
sure.
I had
in
mine
their
at 35.
mid 20s or mid 30s or whatever. It hit me when I was, in college, and I realized like what I'd set out to do, which was become Indiana Jones, wasn't going to happen.
there was no
There's no
crazy
Lost Ark
adventures
of the
and Lost
Covenant.
Ark. Yeah.
Waiting for me. There were no Nazis to do battle with. There were no beautiful women in archaeology. There were no women at all. I was in
It was
the
all
des-
guys
I was on-
wanting to be Indiana Jones.
I was in the desert on all these digs, like scraping through the soil and finding like a bone chip. That was the highlight of the day. And so I gave up this dream of archaeology, had an existential crisis, tried to figure out what I wanted to do. I ended up working at Many Glacier Lodge. I was the gardener there, which is kind of a weird thing to be at a national park, but I was the gardener at Many Glacier Lodge, and she was a waitress there.
Is that where you met?
That's where we met.
Oh, wow.
And
That's cool.
I started keeping a journal for the first time. And, I was writing poems and songs, and I started to slip her a few, it became almost like a
Slip her a few poems.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to be clear.
It's rock and roll after all.
Okay. I slipped her some poems and put them into her mailbox. And, one day we're watching the sunset over the Rockies, and she looked at me and she's like, you should be a writer.
Oh.
Wow.
And I was like, okay.
Had you ever thought about it before?
I had flirted with it.
You did write Conan versus the
did,
Skateboarders
yeah.
in high school. I read
That's
that.
good. That's a deep dive.
That's a deep dive. I go deep.
That was one of my creative achievements in high school. Titled the story Conan versus the Skateboarders. The title was not misleading. That is exactly what it was about.
Do you still have that?
I don't.
You don't.
But I remember it vividly.
That would be amazing. Time to write the sequel.
Yeah. I gotta talk to Marvel maybe about
That's not a
yeah.
bad
since they
idea.
have the Conan rights now.
Right. So yeah, you do write for Marvel, a slew of different ones of the detective stories. Is that what it's called? Is where you started?
I started off with DC.
DC
Comics.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's.
I get my comics.
No,
mixed
no,
up.
no.
Yeah.
No worries. I wrote Green Arrow for years, and most people kept referring to it, including my wife, as Green Lantern.
Two different things.
I walked out of the Avengers, and I heard somebody say, "Where was Superman?" People get it scrambled up all the time. But I started pitching in 2009, and I pitched. I actually pitched Red Moon, my novel, before it was a novel. I pitched it as a graphic novel series.
So this was definitely intentional, like you were wanting to write.
I wanted it.
That's cool. Wow.
But it wasn't until 2014 that I finally. So 2009 to 2014, I think I pitched 45, 50 times.
Wow.
So what, like, do you not get bummed out when you get 5 years of pitching, no, or like how do you just like keep like this is gonna freaking happen?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like one of my superpowers, I guess. I have 2 superpowers.
Oh, 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
One is deep focus. I can like sit at the desk and lose complete track of time.
Are you an Aries?
I am, yeah.
It's like you. He has that superpower too.
Bullheaded.
Yes.
And I get lost, right, in the world, and I emerge from it, and there's 10 pages in front of me. Right, so
That's cool.
that's one of my superpowers, which is, the lamest. I would be the lamest X-Men. You're like, quick, Magneto's coming, focus.
You'd be the most productive.
You'd be the most productive.
And then, and the other superpowers, I guess, just that bullheadedness, faith, conviction.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think I need to get better. It's that I try to figure out how to get better so I can still get that thing.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
I gotta remember that sometimes.
It's that weird blend of arrogance and humility. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that you got to remember that?
Well, because it's easy to get bummed out when people tell you no. Although I guess, I don't know, I don't really give up that easy. It took me 4 years to get him to go on a date with me, but I kept trying.
Yeah. You definitely get bummed out for a while, but you eventually recover.
Yeah, eventually recover.
You lie on the couch, listen to some Coltrane, Nurse of Manhattan.
Yeah, right.
Say your, 3 Hail Marys and your 2 fuck yous. And
then you keep going. Yeah.
Is Coltrane like your go-to bummed out music?
That's my sad music.
Yeah.
What does music play a role in your life, a big role in your life or in your writing?
I stage scenes sometimes with music, so I don't listen while I work because I find it distracting. But one of the things I'll do is, like, let's say I have this big action set piece I want to write, or this really sad, sorrowful moment. What I'll do is I'll put on music that I feel like gets me in that place.
Yeah.
And I'll almost like in a cinematic way, it'll play like a reel through my head.
Yeah.
And I'm there, and then I, shut it down, get at the keyboard, and just go.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I do that a lot, and then we go out to concerts whenever we can. Minneapolis has a great music scene.
Yes, it does.
And I tend to lean towards my favorites instead of, I should experiment a little bit more, but I keep listening to the same stuff.
Well, we'll have to let you know when some of our bands come through, so you can kind of mix it up a bit. What is your favorites though? Like, what are your 3 desert island like?
Well, Johnny Cash is my favorite, but bands that are playing right now, I love the Avett Brothers.
Yeah.
I love them before they were a Gap commercial.
Yeah.
After in the emotionalism days,
right? Yeah. Did you see the movie, the documentary about them?
No.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And that would be called May It Last, a portrait of the Avett Brothers.
You should watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth sitting down for 2 hours to check that out. Just their
Hour and
whole
a half,
process.
yeah.
And
Their relationship is really, really cool. Yeah.
There's so much soul.
Yeah.
Their songs. And I love Blitzen Trapper and Bon Iver.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to send you.
Trampled by Turtles is a great Minnesota band.
Yes, I've heard
that
of
band.
Trampled by Turtles.
Wow.
Yeah.
That same thing.
Yeah, right. We'll have to send you our band Wildorado. If you're in, I think that'll fit
push
the
the
vibe
buttons.
very well. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's right in there.
Yeah, we put them in that category.
There's actually a lot of house concerts in Minnesota too,
That's cool.
because it's sort of like we do a lot of potlucks as well. You got to find a way to survive the winter. And people will say, "All right, there's this guy playing at First Ave in Minneapolis, so we're going to talk to him and we're going to bring him out and we'll play in a barn."
That is
that's
such
cool.
a great
Or
idea.
we're playing somebody in town has a big, massive living room. It's almost like a little church.
Yeah.
That is
shape.
so fun.
We're gonna have just a pop-up concert.
And I guarantee you, unless that band is headlining First Avenue, they're probably doing better at the pop-up house concert than...
They all seem, I'm
Yeah.
surprised.
They're
People are
psyched, believe me. Yeah, they're
pretty
super
willing
happy to be
pop
there.
down there.
Yeah.
And these barn concerts, these red barn concerts.
That sounds
are really
rad.
cool because it'll be like January, negative 20 degrees outside, and it's the windows are all frosted over cataract, with these crystalline designs, and moons burning in the night sky, and then there's this barn. It's just alive,
That's so
crushed with all
cool.
these people, and the band's playing.
Wow.
The
Love
whole place
that.
is shaking.
Did it take you a while to embrace the winter there?
No,
I
actually,
mean, I know you're from Bend, so you
Yeah.
have winters,
Right.
but it's a different winter.
it's a different winter, but I run hot, so winter's my favorite season.
Oh, wow.
Fall and winter.
Yeah.
I
plus
love
a
to
lot-
ski. I love to be out in it. It doesn't
Cross
bother-
country ski? Or
I do a little bit
downhill?
of that, but mostly downhill.
Downhill,
I mean,
right on.
it's the Midwest, so
Yeah.
it's not Mount Bachelor.
Downhill.
But it's a great place to teach my
Underline the
kids
hill.
how to ski.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I learned in upstate New York, so same thing, small things.
Try not to be a
perfect.
snob about it, but it's a little disappointing.
I mean, coming from Oregon, that's hard, Mount Hood. Jeez.
But I find myself, I'm getting to that, skirting up against the edge of old manishness where I'm like, I don't want to go be quite the hot dogger that I was.
Yeah, things seem to hurt more.
Right. I don't
You're
want to fall.
considerably younger than we are, I think.
I'm 40. I don't know.
Yeah, you're younger.
But
Yeah.
I'm skiing with my kids now, and I
Yeah.
ski behind them in case they fall. Those hills are perfect.
And how do you balance kids, life, writing? Do you have any tricks that you just have found help you, or?
There's no perfect balance, but school helps.
School.
Summer is
That they go to school.
Yeah.
They're there for 8 hours.
So you
You're
can
like,
write.
this is
And
time.
so they get on the bus at 7, I write until they get home at 4.
Yeah.
And then when they're home, I try to be a dad, and then I put them to bed. And
cool.
sometimes I'm working again after they're in bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know, Tiffany, you had a challenge once we started Bright Antenna. You'd pretty much just finish How to Kill a Rock Star, and then you didn't write for
Almost 10 years. I
Yeah.
just couldn't figure out how to do it with a day job that was 10 hours a day sometimes. But then I just missed
Was it eating up the same part of your brain too?
No, I felt like I couldn't switch over. It was because there's obviously it's a creative job, but it's more, it was the business side that was sucking me dry. And some of you artists, not going to name any names, but yeah, but then I just got to a point where I was like, I have to fucking figure this out, and it just became getting up at 5 o'clock every morning and writing for 3 or 4 hours before I went to the office, and then writing when I got home. And thank God we don't have kids, because sometimes we would sit sometimes we sit at home after work and we're so fried from everything, and just what if we had to be present for little humans right now?
I feel like there's a truth to that, though. What you say about waking up at 5:30, right? I read an interview with Spike Lee once, and he said, you want to get shit done, wake up early.
Yeah.
And if you
true.
make the writing the first thing you do, you prioritize it, right? You're saying, this is the most important thing.
Yep.
And then everything else just has to fall into place after.
Yep.
So even if it's just an hour
Yeah.
or 2 or whatever,
Yeah.
you fit the rest in to follow.
Yeah, well, and I eventually got to a point too where I was far enough in the story that I could actually work at the office in the afternoons too, when it was
Don't
little bit
tell our
quiet.
employees that. You didn't hear that. Edit that out.
Every office in America, somebody's playing Spider
Yes.
Solitaire.
Exactly.
Working on a novel's no different.
We know you all check your Facebook and Instagram feeds all day long.
At least I'm being productive when it's quiet.
The brain has to process during that time.
Yeah.
I always think of it like
Yeah.
whether it's Spider Solitaire or Facebook or whatever, and it's kind of like the contemporary cigarette break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, I think so.
And I haven't had that with the novel. I'll be working on the novel. I'm like, I just need a cigarette. Which is
Yep.
Facebook dopamine.
Yeah. I know a friend of ours who's a writer, Dave Eggers, who I'm sure you've heard of. He doesn't have internet.
That's smart.
I know. I don't know how people.
Franz and I heard is the same way, that he works off a laptop that like he couldn't control himself, so he like puttied, closed the port even.
Whoa,
Wow.
that's hardcore.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when I'm, procrastinating, I'm like, what did people do to procrastinate before the internet?
Well, and which is crazy because like Dave wrote The Circle, which is pretty much about the whole tech internet culture, and also, I mean, you wrote Darknet. Yes, which I think looks at even the darker side of that whole world.
Well, I think that possession, right, which is what that book is about, is very real.
Yeah, yeah.
If you look, not just Eggers, who's in that community, right, like lives in San Francisco.
Yeah,
so
he does.
Tech Central. But if you look at some of the Silicon Valley innovators, they don't let their kids use social media or have smartphones because they're aware that it is, a form of demonic possession.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, right.
It inhabits you. It takes over your thoughts.
Yeah.
Even when you're not on your phone, it's like malware.
Yep.
Running in the back of your mind.
Yep.
Just this mention of a phone right now is making some people like,
Yeah.
I need somebody see if somebody liked my shit on Facebook.
I kind of feel like I have the exact opposite feeling about my phone. Like I was in Africa earlier this year and I didn't have internet and I felt so free and calm.
Oh yeah. I mean, once you can't do it, it's like, oh, why don't I do this all the time?
Yeah.
And then you get back to the States, and what was the first thing you did?
Check my email.
No, I feel like on a weekly basis, I have like this feeling that I'm going to just chuck my phone out the window.
Yes.
I'll be free.
Yeah.
But then I don't do it.
Right. Well, I mean, and I guess like my problem with that too is like it's not really realistic. I don't want to be one of those people that's not like in touch with the culture. You know what I mean?
I've thought about that as well.
So like I
How
probably
quickly things change right now.
Yeah, like I don't want to.
You don't want to be that old man who's living in the past.
No, but I do have urges sometimes.
To just chuck it.
And I think probably if I didn't have shit to sell, and market, I probably
That's
wouldn't
what I
do
tell
it.
myself. Like,
Yeah.
If I was at some sort of point in my career where I didn't have to worry about
Right.
that, like Cormac McCarthy doesn't have Facebook.
Yeah, right.
So I don't need one.
He'd sell more books if he did.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm certain if we did not have bands that we needed to like, just kind of see what was happening online and their Facebook and stuff, like I think I would be totally not on Facebook at this point.
Me too. I hate Facebook.
I'm done with it. And even though like they own Instagram, like it's a little lesser.
I like Instagram.
It's a little
nice.
lesser evil.
People are nice there.
Yeah, people are nicer.
It's
it
pretty.
seems.
Just nice
For the most
pictures.
part.
It's not reality.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to the cesspool of Twitter.
Yeah, and I don't even go on Twitter.
I'm never on
I just
Twitter.
don't even go there. So it seems, exactly, like too much of a cesspool.
I
can't
found
handle
that
it.
if I've been doing this thing where I take maybe 2 months off every winter or something
Yeah.
around the holidays.
It's a good idea.
It has a cleansing effect.
Yeah, and I wish there was some way. It seems like technology is so like overwhelming right now that if there was just some way that the whole world had to take like, and they could roll it like they did in the Los Angeles Olympics with the traffic, like part of society takes off at this point and then part of society takes
would
off
be
at this
cool.
point, and they just have to like go in the woods for like
Yeah.
a month and
I'm
just
behind
like
this plan.
Me too.
decompress. I'm just coming up with this on the spot.
Propose this as legislation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the first one to sign up.
the next whoever the Democratic nominee is, I'm
Let's
going to
go to
approach
the
them.
woods now.
Or we
Because
could
have a
send
cave
the current
waiting.
yeah,
one.
because there is. I just feel there is some connection there that so many people just
What I worry
are
about
missing
too is
and
that
they don't know it.
there's a connection, but it's also a platform for narcissism because
Yeah.
you're constantly
Oh, yeah.
thinking about yourself as an entertainment, as a subject that people should marvel at or worry over. And so it creates this solipsistic.
Solipsistic. Of, relating to, or characterized by solipsism, or extreme egocentricity.
Sort of sensibility
Yeah.
where you're the star of your own movie. Always.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
And I hate to think what that's doing to like a 13-year-old.
I know.
Yeah. How do you, if you don't mind sharing, like how do you? I don't know. How old are your kids now?
13.
So they're right there. So how are you dealing with that? Like,
It's this, we didn't want to give our kid a phone until 8th grade. He's very mature. He won us over. So by the end of 7th grade, he now has one. So we gave it to him a little earlier, and we've taken it away from him several times.
Yeah. Wow.
hard.
We monitor what he's looking at. We have time limits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, the texting thing is what gets me.
Yeah.
His phone never stops buzzing.
That's great. And that's instead of picking up, that's just the way they're communicating. You know, kids are like, this is natural. This is what we do. And,
Although
for us old people, it's like, what are you doing? Pick up the phone and talk.
Well, I don't know.
But I like I'm curious as what they text to each other, because I have a 15-year-old nephew and I try to talk to him on texting all the time and I get one-word answers back.
Or emojis.
Yes. I'm like, come on, let's have a
Actually,
conversation.
I'm all about the texting because I've always had serious phone anxiety.
Me too. I hate talking on the phone.
That's
used to.
funny. She has the
I
same
literally,
thing.
my outgoing message says, please don't leave a message because I'm never going to call you back. Just text me. I don't like the phone.
I was so pathetic that in middle school and high school, if I was going to call a girl, I would actually have a script.
Me too.
I would write out subjects of conversation in advance
too.
and keep it by the
That's
phone.
amazing.
I did that with
Just
you
in
when
case
I would
I had,
call
like,
you.
Oh, wow.
A weird pause. What do I got here?
Yeah, I wasn't even junior high. I was in college and I was doing that.
Yeah, I remember in college I did the same thing. I woke up on a Saturday morning early, and my roommate's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I got
Writing a script.
Got to prepare.
It wasn't for like another 2 hours, but
This is part of the reason why I studied acting, because I would know when he was at work and I would write out what I was going to say on his answering machine, word for word, and then just read it.
Well, which is interesting. Well, I guess it's not interesting, but that just kind of reminds me. I one of the things when I was reading about Ben Percy,
Googling you.
Googling
Thank you,
and-
internet.
like especially now in the genre stuff, and I think you alluded to this earlier. Like it's very plot driven, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, but you very much plot everything out beforehand and have a very concise idea of where things are going the whole time. Whereas Tiffany is sort of on that vertical that you talked about earlier, where it's more emotional and like, I don't know, like how it starts, and that's sometimes about it.
Yeah. And but I have
is
an
it a
idea.
voice? Is it an image?
It's a character, and it grows, and it's sometimes. Usually I'm really inspired by music, and the novel that I just finished, the whole story came to me by listening to a song, and but I didn't really know what was going to happen. I don't plot because I feel like it takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll turn a corner and something will happen, and I'll just be like, I didn't even see that coming, and it's the page I'm on, and I feel like I wouldn't get to that if I plotted it out. But my agent is totally against that.
Everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
James Lee Burke, whose fiction reads as perfectly plotted, he's been quoted as saying, "Plots for amateurs." And
I don't know about that, but okay.
and Dan Shawn, whose latest book, "Oh Will," is super creepy. And he's been nominated for a National Book Award for his story collection Among the Missing. Like, he's the exact same way. Like, he lets the garden grow.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's what you are. You're either like a gardener or you're an architect. And
Right.
George
Oh,
R. R.
that's
Martin,
great.
who writes Game of Thrones, he's a gardener. He
Really?
doesn't know where his books are going.
How is that even possible?
I mean, there's so many threads.
And that's why by like book 4, it was like he was all over the place with all
Wow,
these new
yeah.
characters and had to find a way to bring it back together. And
That's insane.
But
So were you
other people
doing?
are-
Were you still more like diagramming it all out when you were first starting and doing? No, you were.
I did it. For me, it's like I think I can do it without the diagram. I can do it without the blueprint. But for me, it's like Dumbo's magic feather. Like
Oh, that's
I
cool.
just kind of feel like I need it to fly.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at it from a practical point of view, a sensible point of view, would you build a cathedral without a blueprint?
Yeah.
No.
This goes back to being Aries, I think.
I think so
It
too.
all goes back to
So
that.
But it also, I think,
But I
you write
recognize that
probably a
doesn't
lot
work.
faster though too. I feel like I would write faster if I had a plot.
I feel like at the very least, this is what I tell people who are more gardeners, as that, and I think this is just me, my own bullying point of view, is that people are afraid of white space, right? So if you know at least what your ending is,
Yeah.
if you at least know that, then you have something to hasten towards, and everything will be building towards that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because blind alleys that you go down scare me.
Yeah.
Because it can take you so long to write a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to write when I'm when I'm dependent on the writing to pay my bills, I don't want to like lose 2 years. I can't afford to.
Right.
So I gotta know that final target. And I usually know, I don't know every single thing that happens, because you're right, that would take the fun out of it.
Yeah.
But I know, think of it like a constellation, like where you've got like the brightest stars.
Right.
Yeah.
I figure out, I improvise along the way to get there.
That's cool. And I usually do know the end. I just don't know how I'm going to get there. But it's also usually more of an emotional thing. Like I know what's going to happen and how it's going to feel. And sometimes I get there and I'm like, oh, that's not what's going to happen at all. But still.
Well, that's the other thing. Like you have this outline, you have this blueprint, but it better be written in pencil.
Right.
The characters surprise you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're writing and you inhabit this mindset and you realize they wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You didn't know them as well when you
Exactly.
projected all of this. You realize they wouldn't do this at all.
Yeah.
They go this way instead, which has a domino effect on everything else.
Yeah, that's fun.
It's cool.
Wow.
It's magic.
I wanted to ask you about one thing that a quote, I don't remember where I wrote it from, but you said you've learned the difference between hurriedness and urgency.
Do you remember
Do you remember saying that? And if so, can you expand? And if not, we can just move on.
I think I know what that means. I mean, I oftentimes refer...
I think in the time you're saying you're like just reading a ton and like just trying to write anything you could and like get it out. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, that when you have this sense of panicked hurriedness, which I did when I first started off because I felt like I was so far behind. And I read, 100 books one year, and there were all these classics that I felt like I needed to catch up on. And it was almost a waste of my time because they didn't stick.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to like when I said, all right, I need to change what I'm doing here because this is not helping me. And instead what I do now is I've given myself permission to be slow, a slow reader. And this is just one facet of urgency, but when it comes to reading, like I will read a scene and if I feel like tears welling or if I feel scared or excited or whatever, I'll be like, how the hell did they do that? And then I'll go back and I'll reread it or reread it again. And I might map it out. I might figure out different techniques that were used so that I can then employ the same tricks. Or if I read a book and it just blows me away, I might read it again. Map it up, map out the whole, same thing with
Map
movies.
out the whole book.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've done that several times. And I will watch a movie and then I'll rewatch it with the director's commentary on. Maybe then I'll read the screenplay.
Wow.
So I consume a lot fewer titles, but I feel like the depth of my engagement with them, I guess the urgency I sort of fall into them and want to take apart sort of like the components and understand how they're fitting together to create this machine. Like that's what feeds me creatively.
Would you share a book that you've done that with or a movie?
Well, this all began with Flannery O'Connor. And I was in grad school and I felt like I wasn't really getting plot of all things, structure. And so I took a writer who I felt like was really good at the architecture of her stories, which is Flannery O'Connor. And I read a story, Everything That Rises Must Converge, 6 times. And I read it 6 times because I wanted to be emotionally disengaged completely. And be able to see every single thing that was going on and how it added up to theme, how it added up to character arcs, blah, blah, blah. And then I went through and I mapped it out. So paragraph 1. Character A introduced via dialogue is jealous and spiteful, which is every Flannery O'Connor character. Paragraph 2, theme introduced via description of setting. And I went through the whole thing like that, beat by beat. And then I wrote a story based on that skeleton that bore no resemblance to the original. So maybe that character was introduced via dialogue and their central weakness was revealed, jealous and spiteful. So I would have my character via dialogue say something that would reveal their core wound.
Wow.
Maybe it was they were grieving. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Next paragraph. She maybe described theme via setting. So maybe it was a neighborhood where every house had a narrow collar of dirt around it and was of a uniform ugliness, liver-colored monstrosities. That's from Everything That Rises Must Converge. So I would do that maybe, but my theme would have to do with revenge or whatever.
Right.
And I described jawline of the mountains and blood-red sunset or whatever.
Wow.
So I did that, and I did that with that story. And then I started to, things just clicked. I just got it. I did that 3 or 4 times with different stories, and I understood plot.
Wow.
But then I failed to do that with novels until years later. when I was failing to sell. I was like, you know what? I need to do the same shit as I did before.
Yeah.
It's no different than what a musician does, right? When they
Well,
you got like something on the radio and you're trying to play along with it when you're in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Or
you do a cover.
A painter.
Or,
You see them in the museum, like they're trying to paint like Van Gogh. It's not because they want to be Van Gogh. They're just trying to understand what that feels like.
Yep.
So you can take something from it.
And I feel like it's, from whether it's these writing conferences or wherever we've read it, it's like you have to learn the rules and the way to create things before you can break it.
Yeah.
And, studying it that intensely is just brilliant.
Build up your arsenal.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is that everybody has their own arsenal, right? Everybody has their own toolbox. And maybe you study with a teacher and they have like 7 things. They say, you got to do this, 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 this. Maybe after you do all those things when you're in their class, but then you leave and then you just listen to 3 of them. You actually disagree with the others. But then in the next class, the next professor has these 8 things they believe in.
Right.
Maybe you listen to 1 of those, right? And eventually what you have is like this collection of things that you learn from musicians or sports heroes or writers or painters or whatever, right? Whatever discipline you're pursuing. You steal here, you ultimately forge your own weapon there,
Right.
and then you have your own aesthetic ultimately.
Right.
Yeah.
When they talk about finding your voice, like that's
Right.
it's your own arsenal.
Yeah.
That's
Like
brilliant.
Bono says, every artist is a cannibal.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, every podcast that we've done, she's slipped in some reference to YouTube. So just so you know,
I'm
it's
obsessed. They're my faves. It's not a secret.
It's not a secret.
Actually, I dated a girl in high school who was obsessed with U2.
They've been my favorite band since I was 11,
Yeah,
and I'm 48. It's a long
they're
time.
great. I don't
They're
deny it.
great.
Or they used to be great.
They're still great.
But I
I'm
used
wrestling for
to.
that.
One of the things I used to do was write U2 lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
Like on her time card at work.
Oh. I mean, they've got great lyrics. Very poignant and a lot of good lessons about life and love.
I'm trying to remember, what is that one about? Like, we are trampled underfoot.
I love that one.
What song is that?
That song, that's from Wild Horses.
Is that with or without you?
No, it's from Auction Baby. Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild
Who's Gonna
Horses?
Ride-
No, it's So Cruel. I'm sorry.
It's been too long since high school.
Yeah.
Which is really the last time I listened to U2 intensely.
You're missing out. You're missing out.
Oh, man. So I've read that you have 3 major phobias: clowns, sharks, and dentists.
It's true.
I hate
Have you
that.
ever written about any of those, or they worked in symbolically in any way? And
Or
if
will
not,
you?
why is that?
There's a reason for each. Okay, first, I'll talk about dentists. When I was young, I had screwed up teeth. And so my dad, for instance, he didn't want to pay for braces, so there was a bag of popsicle sticks next to the couch. And if I was watching TV, whether it was G.I. Joe or Thundercats or He-Man or whatever, I had to push on my teeth with
my
the
God.
popsicle sticks.
Wow.
So hillbilly braces. And if he walked by and I wasn't doing that, he'd whack me in the back
Oh
of the
my
head.
God.
And you know what?
Look at that.
That worked?
Freaking straight as an arrow in there.
$10 of probably popsicle sticks.
Wow. How did he even figure that out?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
But it wasn't just that. It was, I would have to go to the orthodontist now and then
Yeah.
for stuff. Like my teeth, weren't coming out. And so I remember this was one time in particular where they had to tear out a bunch of my teeth.
Oof.
I was, 9, 10, and the Novocaine wasn't working.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that's a horror.
God.
And so I was alone in this office, no parents, and I can distinctly remember like them ripping out my teeth and hearing the crunching
Oh
and
my
everything else.
God.
So it just, I can't stand the dentist ever since then. Sharks, Jaws.
Yeah.
I saw that when I was in 3rd grade. It terrified me. I couldn't even go in a pool without thinking there was a
So
shark.
can you go in the ocean now, or are you still
I don't like to swim.
You don't like to swim, period. Yeah. Wow.
That movie ruined me.
I think that ruined a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite movie as well.
Wow.
That's funny.
That's interesting.
I can teach
funny.
almost any craft lesson.
Based on Jaws, the movie.
Jaws.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That
In
makes
fact,
sense.
I have this book called Thrill Me. It's a bunch of craft essays. And
It's in my pile. I haven't read it yet, but it's in my pile.
my editor, first one over it, was like, could you maybe take out all the jaws? It's a little weird.
No.
And then for clowns, I mean,
It?
why wouldn't you be scared
Yeah.
of clowns? But I read
You're not a fan of clowns either, right?
Nope.
I read in 5th grade.
My parents used to take me to the circus every year. Well, my mom would take me to the circus, and my dad would.
Was your
well,
dad afraid of clowns
yes,
too?
but he would be like, "Take them; they want to go." And my sister and I would be like, "No, we don't." But we would go anyway.
Well, let me tell you a creepy story about a clown. This is true, even though it doesn't sound true.
Those are
So I was traveling through Illinois, which I wouldn't wish upon anyone, because it goes on forever.
Sorry, Illinois.
We've got some great areas, Illinois,
Yeah.
but it's just like the longest state.
Yeah.
I'm
So you're
through
going
it.
top to
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah.
Okay.
I was going from southern Illinois all the way up to northern Wisconsin. And anyways, going along this route, it's just cornfields marching off into the distance, and there was no real traffic except I saw a semi up ahead.
Oh no.
And the semi was really dirty, like filthy, weirdly so. And as I got closer, I saw that there were words written in the dirt. As I got closer and closer and closer, and in the back of the semi, somebody had written, "Show me your boobs."
What?
And I figured it must be the driver.
Yeah.
And so I pulled forward, passing this guy. I was like, what kind of a creep, is driving this truck? And I look up as I go by, and a clown face
What?
comes towards me.
Oh,
The
my
driver is a
God.
clown?
I'm not joking.
Oh my God.
Clown
That is
face
so wrong.
spins towards me. And so I showed him my boobs. I slammed on the accelerator and got the hell out of it. That guy is still out there.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The clown trucker.
Wow.
He probably had
And I
like
actually tried
chopped
to
up bodies in the back of that truck.
And I tried to put him in a novel called The Mystery Light that failed. And I remember my agent writing back to me, "What's with this clown? It's really freaking me out."
Well, that's the point, right?
And then I just couldn't let it go, so I put it in Red Moon.
Okay.
I was just like, "Not the clown again!"
Oh my God.
There's also a clown trucker in one of my Green Arrow stories.
Oh, wow. So they have made appearances, the phobias.
Yeah.
You recently interviewed Stephen King, right?
Yeah.
Was that
Oh, wow.
really cool? Speaking of clowns, scary clowns.
Yeah, I mean, he's, it sounds cheesy, but he's one of my heroes.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
amazing.
Of course. I mean,
You're not supposed to meet your gods.
This is why I've
But he-
never met Bono.
And he was completely generous and kind,
That's awesome.
funny.
wow.
I would imagine he would really love your work.
He's a really great guy.
So I didn't catch that interview, but what was like the one question you wanted to ask him, and what was his response, if you recall?
Well,
Or
just
phrased?
like a little bit of context on it too. I had corresponded with him a little bit. He has been kind enough to blurb a few of my books, and I was lucky enough to meet with him beforehand. But the thing is that he was making this appearance in Minneapolis, but a lot of people were being creepy about it, like calling in constantly to the Loft Literary Center.
I'm
asking
sure.
questions that were unsettling. I have Stephen King's tattoo on my back. I need him to sign it.
Oh God.
I'm dying and I need to meet Stephen King. Or whatever. And so we met in the secret location beforehand, but somehow the people still
Word
knew.
got out.
And so there were like security barricades set up in this parking lot, but like there was all these people started approaching me
Wow.
like,
Steven.
Stephen, with clown books
Oh
in their
my
hands.
God.
Yeah.
And he just
Bambi.
ignored them, and we were bullshitting about whatever.
Shout out to Bambi Barnum, our
My
friend.
friend Bambi who loves him.
Was he there?
No,
No,
she wasn't
she
there,
wasn't
but
there.
we were gonna go and come and watch that because she loves him so much.
That's the thing, he doesn't make many appearances.
I know.
So
and
people
she
did
was like,
fly in.
she was like,
Yeah.
we have to go watch the
Yeah.
watch the interview, but we didn't
so-
because I had to be somewhere else that weekend.
Yeah, I bullshit for a while, and then we get on this golf cart, and it's like high security. There's security escorts, cops,
yeah.
and everything. And we start zooming off. We got security on either side of us, and other golf carts. And we're going along, and people just like going along the sidewalk. They're like, "What's going on?" And they look over and they see Stephen King in this golf cart. They're like, "Stephen fucking King!" And people are like, "Oh, hail the Crimson King!"
Oh my Lord.
And I'm going along, and we get to the back of the stage, but unfortunately, the back of the stage is a chain link fence, so people can see
shit.
through it. And these people have been there since 7 a.m. and it's 10 a.m. And they see Stephen
They're
King,
rabid.
and they start crying. And,
Oh wow.
I mean, it would be like you in the presence of Bono.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he kind of, waves, but then he bullshits a little with me some more, asking about the twins or what am I working on, how's my family. And then this is a really cool thing, I got to introduce him to my daughter. And,
Oh, wow.
and,
That's cool.
Yeah. He, up on stage, was hilarious. You know, he would tell these crazy anecdotes. One of the questions I asked him was like, all right, what is it like to be someone who has written these books, yes, but whatever is the content of these books is spilled beyond the pages and infected society. Like, he's a cultural phenomenon,
Oh, yeah.
not just a literary phenomenon.
Yeah.
If you hear a dog going crazy, you think it's Cujo. If your car's acting up, it's being a Christine. You know? Pennywise is like equivalent to Frankenstein at this point,
Right.
Dracula.
Yeah.
It's beyond the source material.
Yeah.
So I asked him about what's that like, and he told a few stories. One of which was like he had this booksellers meeting. He was at a restaurant. It was a super fancy place. In the middle of the meal, he realized like, I'm sick.
Oh no.
I gotta leave the table. So he leaves the table. He goes to the bathroom. It's marble floors. There's an attendant.
Oh
For
God.
whatever reason, there are no stalls on them. I mean, no doors on the
No,
side.
oh my! I've been in those, and it's so awkward.
And so, you know, he drops trowel, and as he put it on stage in front of thousands of people, so I'm not revealing anything private here. He's like, it all came out just fine. But anyways, he looked up, sweating, feverish, and the bathroom attendant was walking toward him with a pen.
Oh my
Will you please sign
God.
this?
Oh my God.
Could you wait till I wash my hands at least? For goodness sake.
That's one of those things too, where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm on stage interviewing him, and then, you know, afterwards, I'm like, I should have said that.
Yeah.
Did you tell him you were busy with some paperwork?
Yeah.
And then he told another story about how he's, you know, he doesn't go grocery shopping very often, but sometimes Tabitha sends him out. His mom sends him out. He always screws it up, but
Yeah.
he goes.
So do I.
I do too. It's like,
Fair enough.
I didn't mean those kind of
It
lemons.
gives me the biggest. That's my phobia, like having you tell me to go get something.
It's always wrong.
I mean, I
I
write
said, I
it
meant
down.
white radishes.
I write it down. Don't get me started.
I'm the same way.
There's a lot of different kind of rashes.
And he's going up and down the aisles, and a woman comes up to him. This is in Florida, the Publix or whatever. And he's like,
It would be a.
"You're Stephen King." He's like, "Yep." He's like, "You write those terrible books.
Oh my
horrible,
God.
horrible books." He's like, "Sorry." You should write a nice book someday, like Shawshank Redemption.
No
Oh my
way.
God.
And he goes, I wrote that. It's like, no, you didn't. And she turns around and leaves.
Oh
That's
my
amazing.
God. That is
my
such
God.
a great story. Oh my God.
So, I mean, I didn't,
That's-
honestly, faced with Stephen King in a public forum, part of me was paralyzed because what do I ask this guy?
Yeah.
It's had such a profound impact on me. I don't want to be a
Yeah.
fanboy because that creates a weird,
Right.
Yeah.
power dynamic. So I'm just going to bullshit with him like, we're doing right now. And
Yeah.
hang out.
It's perfect.
So it worked out well, even though I wanted to be like, I'm not worthy.
Well, and speaking of rabid, crazy fans, I mean, I know we were talking earlier a little bit, and you mentioned, like, especially once you got into writing comic books and Green Arrow and some stuff with Wolverine, and like people are invested in those characters, and maybe you received some not fun responses to some of the things you wrote. I don't know.
it's a
And
tricky-
Tiffany as well, and actually, well, she can tell her first book story, but go ahead.
Well, I mean,
wanna hear that.
it's very quick because my first novel was called God-Shaped Hole, and a lot of people thought it was a Christian. A lot of Christians thought it was a Christian novel, and so they bought it and they started reading it. And then I got a lot of mail that said, "You're going to hell."
Oh, yeah.
Because
Oh, there's some fun sex scenes in it. My characters like to have sex.
Christians
and
don't have sex.
swear.
apparently
No.
not.
It's all immaculate conception.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, the tricky thing about comics is that you're a custodian of these characters.
Yeah.
These characters have existed for a long time, sometimes 80 years. And people feel like they don't just know them, but sometimes that they own them. Same
Yeah.
thing goes for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of passion, and that's what the great thing about comics fans. Sometimes it can be the hard thing about comics fans, though, because if you do something they think is out of character, or if you think that if they think you do something that has betrayed the character in some way, they will come after you. So
I mean, are we talking to level of like come after you like you
I
shouldn't
hope
have
you
done
die.
that? Oh, whoa.
I hope you have cancer.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
I'm gonna kill you.
What is wrong with people?
That's positivity in the world right
What
there.
is wrong with
Wow.
people?
I would say that's a minority.
Yeah, well, that's
But
yeah,
the internet makes people, because of its anonymity,
yeah.
it makes
Of course,
people meaner.
that's intense.
I mean,
mean,
I've never
what-
had that happen when I'm at a comics convention.
That's good.
Well, that's good.
Face to face, people are like, I didn't really like the face.
Like, what was your reaction like the first time you got an email that was, or a message, letter, whatever, that was that and to that level?
Usually I just mute.
Yeah.
Because there's usually like people who are super obsessed and they have like 5 accounts.
Yeah.
They just do the same thing with
Right.
all the accounts so that they can kind of carpet bomb you.
Oh
So just
boy.
mute, and then psychologically I'm a lot freer. I don't know. There's all sorts of ways to screw up online though. Like
Yeah.
somebody sends you a question on Twitter and then you respond without like, do you have the time to like go to every single account and research who they are?
Right.
So like I remember I responded to this one question I got once, and then all these people jumped on me, and it turns out that this person who had asked the question was kind of a bad guy, which I didn't,
How are you supposed to know that?
unless I don't have time to curate
Yeah.
my social
Yeah.
media accounts to that degree. So then I deleted the response, and
Wow.
there's all, it's just like, what a minefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Total minefield. Wow. That's
I can't
intense.
deal with that stuff.
That's why.
It's too much. It's too much.
So all you watching on YouTube, our little video cameras power just died, but you're still hearing us.
Oh,
So
okay,
you can
bye.
imagine what we look like, and now we're taking off all our clothes. It's really going to
And
get
pouring
fun
more
now.
look
whiskey.
great. Totally ripped.
Totally
What
ripped.
happened?
I think the battery just
Oh, that's
went
cool.
out. But
Did it just go out?
yeah,
I
just
heard it.
just
Did we hit it at just like a perfect beat?
it was kind of right in the middle of a
Okay. Of
something
that
being-
story.
yeah, the story being said. But just last, we'll just end on this note about reviews, because I feel like this applies like a lot of artists, not just writers. Whether it's a songwriter or a musician or an artist, they have to deal with reviews. And again, I don't remember where. I apologize to wherever you responded to a question on this, but at one point you wrote this, and then we can just kind of feel it out and close on this. But you said you spend on reading reviews, positive or negative. You spend thousands of hours crafting thousands of pages with nothing in the way of encouragement except the parentheses, perhaps silly, close parentheses, belief that you might one day move someone to laugh or gasp or cry, that you might educate, that you might inspire someone to action, that you might change their perception of the world. It's noble. It's also kind of insane. Of course you want to be applauded, and when the applause comes, it feels good. And when the shit slinging comes, it hurts. But it's healthiest if you're able to tune out the noise. Don't be unreasonably inflated or deflated by the applause or criticism. The writer, and I'm going to insert, or artist, is ultimately drawn to the sorcery of storytelling for other reasons.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a brilliant, important thing to remember
Yep.
for every artist as they put their souls out into the world.
Absolutely. And since we've been talking so much about social media too, right? I think that has made things even more precarious.
Yep.
Yeah.
Your hunger for followers or for instant approval or whatever else, and you have people slinging arrows and or giving you a group hug constantly.
Yeah.
You gotta tune that out.
Yeah.
You gotta focus on the work.
Yeah. Well, and I think also like the next step to that is just being so grateful to be able to do that work, Like I am so grateful that I get to tell stories and that people care about them, even if it's one person,
Right.
that's enough for me.
That's an important thing to recognize. I every now and then just need to I try to slow down. I try to pause. I try to remember like this is really fucking cool. What I'm doing.
It is, and
I'm writing
also,
Wolverine.
yeah,
That's really
it is
fucking
cool. Well, and I think that also comes from being a lover of those things. Like I love books changed my life and music changed my life, and I wouldn't be the person I am without the books that moved me and the songs that moved me and still to this day move me. And so to like think that you can have that effect on somebody is such a gift, because you know how much it means to you. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
It's very, very cool. Cool. Do you have what else is coming out next for you? What should people be on the lookout for?
I have a few Marvel projects that will be announced soon at Comic-Con, so I can't talk about those now.
Oh,
top secret.
super secret.
Marvel would send a sniper out for me. But right now, season 2 of Wolverine. Because I write a podcast series for Marvel as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's an audio drama. It's equivalent to
cool.
like a TV series, except it's in your ear.
Yeah.
The 3D sound technology is really awesome.
Wow.
So I wrote 2 seasons of Wolverine. The first is called The Long Night. The second is called The Lost Trail. And the first season is available for free right now wherever podcasts are streaming. The second season is free as of July 8th.
That's cool.
So
Excellent.
get some adamantium in your ear.
Yeah.
Nice. Any novels?
I just finished a novel. It's first in a trilogy.
Oh.
And then it'll come out in early 2021.
Okay.
Scary.
Ooh, actually not. It's actually not. It's sci-fi.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And the other, I do have a scary book coming out in the fall called Suicide Woods. It's a
I'm
story
looking
collection.
forward to that one.
It's cool. Story collection. Nice. All right.
Which
Well,
dozens of people are excited about reading.
I am. I'm one of those dozens.
All right. Well, thank you, Ben, for
Cheers.
joining us here
Thank
today
you.
for Cocktails
Sure.
with Bright
Thank you
Antenna.
so much. This is so
Thank
fun.
you to Hotel Jackson for letting us record in their space, and thank you to Tim Sandlin
For bringing us all together.
and the Jackson Hole Writers Conference for bringing us all together. Definitely, all you writers out there, you want to check it out. It's really cool. Definitely worth making a trip here if you want to learn more about writing and have
every
anything
June.
you want to be critiqued, for sure. And that's it. Follow us on YouTube and anywhere you listen to your podcasts, and we look forward to coming to you again really soon.
And ask Ben questions on Twitter, because he loves that.
Yeah, ask him
Only
really
nice ones.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
All right.